Forgetting Ashville is an actual play Chronicles of Darkness podcast set in the fictional New England town of Ashville. We're all friends, we're here to have fun, but our story can include graphic violence, drug use, sexual content, and other mature themes. Content warnings can be found in the show notes. We've talked at our table about safety, comfort, and consent, both as players and storytellers. We know what to expect, we're all excited to be here, and we want you to feel the same, so listener discretion is advised. Now let's forget our troubles. Last time on Forgetting Ashville, Jesse returned from scouting and shared what he had found with the group. Dan and Lola discovered silver bullets being sold in town, a lethal threat to the werewolves. The group prepared to confront the cult. Lola entered the realm of dreams to regain her strength before the fight. John and Dan ready to infiltrate the cult for more information. Aviva left with Jesse so that the werewolf wouldn't have to handle the effects of the new moon alone. But tensions rose between the two when Jesse told Aviva he believed her coming back to town was wrong. The Acamoth suddenly interrupted the conversation, possessing Jesse and driving the werewolf to hunt his friends, starting with Aviva, the girl the abyssal entity targeted once before. So the two of you drive through town. As you're driving, can you both make me perception checks, which wits composure?
3 successes.
1 success.
As you guys are getting towards the edge of town, you'll notice a few things as you're going around. One, you see a couple of the Order of the Toolmaker members heading sort of away from the church. Apparently, usually, you can kind of put together pretty quick, they usually have their lodge meetings in the basement of the church. For whatever reason, they've had to relocate tonight. The basement of the church is currently not available. So they are heading to one of sort of the break room areas over by the factory itself instead. So when you're going to a meeting tonight, you'll be heading to the factory. Second thing you'll notice is that there's actually towards the outskirts of town, you can see lights out in Harper's Field, which is sort of like used to be a farm, then sort of the farm failed and they sold to the town, and then the town sort of kept it up. It's basically a fairgrounds now. So you can see lights out there and some trucks. Looks like they have just started the annual tradition of setting up for the Founders Day Festival out there. And then the third thing that you will notice, because you both succeeded, is that as you pass, not a big deal, more and more of the telephone poles in town start having little missing child posters on them, like somebody made flyers, like, have you seen my daughter? More and more of them are passing. It's just a picture of some kid, like some little girl, I don't know, maybe 12-ish. Not really familiar to either one of you. Although, John, with your perception of truth, what you will see is a picture of Lola Gardner as she appears right now. And as you go, just as you're about to sort of get out of town to head up towards the cabin, there's a woman, I don't know, like 5 feet tall or so, short blonde hair, like a guitar sort of slung over her back, and you'll notice that she's got like a little pistol at her hip, open carry, not uncommon around here, just stapling a poster up for a missing child. And then sort of like turns and gets onto like a bike, like a bicycle, pedals down like a side street to like put up more posters for her poor missing child.
Unsure as to whether or not Dan sees it, John gawks as they go by and is just kind of slowly slapping at Dan's forearm while he drives. As you gawk, John, with your understanding of truth and lies, you need to roll me a contested clash of wills. Okay, let's go. I'll declare this worth a point of willpower.
Okay. Lex, what sphere is your truth sight based on?
Prime.
Roll me your prime plus gnosis.
Okay. 2 successes.
You see the same thing that Dan does. 5 feet tall, short blonde hair, kind of like a punk look, like somebody who would be walking around with like an electric guitar over their back, even though they don't have an amp. And they just sort of bike off down a side street after putting up some posters.
Dan, do you see those signs?
Yeah. What about him?
Whoever that was, they were looking for Lola.
Lola's not a 12-year-old girl.
Trust me.
All right.
They're looking for Lola.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like the methodology of the people chasing her.
I don't know what their methods are, but we're going to want to tell Lola when she gets back.
All right.
And the two of you make the turn up towards the cabin.
All right, so we need to let Lola know. And then it turns out these guys have been meeting underneath the church. Where did you say you fought the Bastions before?
Under the church.
And now they're moving over towards the factory for their meeting.
Hopefully not the same area the Bastions was in.
I've got a weird feeling about the odds of that. So
We'll keep
maybe while we're looking, maybe you want to look for signs of Bastions.
I'll keep an eye on it. I don't think they saw me. Well, not like me, so it should be somewhat okay.
Okay. John hops out, starts going around to the driver's side.
Cabin is exactly as you left it earlier today. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed.
Yeah. So this place is not the way nature takes its course over things when they die or rot. It's not working right here. And I think the Gold Moth had something to do with that.
All right. Is
So,
there anything we can do to fix that?
no, not yet.
Okay. I'm just going to get my truck.
I just want to keep you aware of all of the pieces as they reveal themselves.
Are we getting ready here or are we going back? I already forgot.
Let's get back to my place.
Okay.
And once we're both there, we can go ahead and get dressed up and head out.
Sure. You can do some more of that air tailoring.
More what?
Yeah, what you were doing in the car. Is that how you do all your tailoring?
Yeah, but I think we might want to go with something a little more expected. I'll get you a suit ready, but obviously no armor or weapons or anything like that.
All right.
I figure we got you, right?
Hopefully. I mean, I'm hoping I don't have to go through and have a bad day with a bunch of townspeople that I know the first and last names of, but yeah.
I'm inclined to agree with that. And
But-
if we can avoid bringing anything that might spook them, maybe it'll help us avoid that.
Sounds good.
All right, I'll see you soon. John gets skis, hops in, and goes.
Yeah, I follow after.
The two of you make it back to John's house, no problem. You can get changed and head out. When you arrive at the factory, Dan, are your senses extended into the He-Seal or no?
Probably not.
Okay.
I'm going to stay with John, but also I'm not good at not showing things that come across my face. So if I know something's there, it's going to be a bad time.
Sure, makes sense.
So the point of us is to keep a low profile. So I'll be present with John and we are infiltrating the cult, and I'll keep an eye out if I hear any rat-based things.
Sure. Make me a wits composure.
Bump kiss.
You don't see anything. What you do see is a bunch of cars, all of which are, probably members of the Toolmakers Union or the Order of the Toolmaker. Unclear where the lines are drawn between those two entities. Are there, and there are lights on in one of the side buildings, sort of next to the main factory. Not one of like the outlier buildings that never gets used. This is probably the one where the actual offices are, and they have like a conference room in there.
It's like a big old meeting room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see some lights on inside. You hear some friendly conversation. There's a couple people outside smoking. You recognize Gary's car, so he's probably already here.
I imagine I recognize a number of these
You
cars.
recognize a lot of these cars, yeah. John, so do you. All in total, there's probably like a dozen cars here right now. Unclear how many people come to the lodge meetings or whether or not it's unclear. But one thing you will notice, even with nothing on, is the couple people you see outside smoking, and then when you guys do go inside, you will notice on every lapel is one of those little pins that has a stylized human skull with a cog in its forehead.
I'll wait for John so we can go in together.
Yeah, Dan's gonna be set up with a nice gray suit, maybe pink shirt, kind of nice shoes. Have him look good for it. Those suits? They're almost built for wrestlers.
Yes.
They're a little too tight and show off their biceps and pecs.
It makes a triangle body even into more of a sharp triangle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make sure that his suit kind of leans into the absurdity that is Dan.
Looks good.
Shrug into the coat there while I'm waiting for him, and then wait for him to meet up, and then go in there, and I will start greeting every person we see by name and like handshaking them and asking them how their cars are and like about
Oh
their
yeah,
families.
you recognize everybody in here. So basically, here's some of the people you immediately recognize, right? Like Gary is right over there. He looks upset. He looks deeply unhappy. Like he's just had the worst couple of days of his life. You recognize a whole ton of people. You recognize the union president, Carl Fairbanks, older guy, probably in his like late 50s, early 60s, like unclear if he's retirement age or not. Big pot belly, balding, but with like a kind of a fringe around his ears and like a goatee. The only color in his hair left is around his mouth. You know, like that still has some black hanging on.
Is this a mixed like men and women thing?
There are men and women who are part of the Toolmakers Union.
At least they're mildly progressive.
They're mostly the only employer in town.
Yeah. Or it doesn't mean that they would have.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. No, as far as that, like they seem to welcome everyone to come work for the factory. You know, obviously there's no kids here,
right.
and right now there's like some punch and like those like little mini bottles of water on the table, like a couple of snacks going around. Amber, you guys went to high school with, the girl who almost crashed her car last time she saw you washing your truck, is here. She works for the Toolmakers Union. Immediately doesn't look at you, like just is looking at who's coming in and then immediately turns and like goes to start a conversation anywhere else.
Like eyes bug out, like hold a hand up to her face. She definitely doesn't see him kind of deal.
Yeah, just like, oh, hey, nope, didn't see that. Don't want to deal with it. Like,
I definitely make sure to budge into that conversation and be like, hey, I saw your car the other day.
Oh, hey, Dan, what are you doing here?
Oh, you know, Gary's been trying to sell me on this place forever and ever and ever.
Well, we're so glad you're here.
Yeah.
That's great. She doesn't see John at all. Doesn't even register that John has walked into the room. Yeah, that's so great. Were you thinking about coming and working at the factory?
I gotta consider it. I know a lot of these people here, but like, I don't know much about this area. I don't really end up here.
How do you live here for so long and not, Dan?
Dan, it's never been my thing. I don't know.
That's how I learned to stealth.
Do you want to? I don't know. You can show me around this place then.
It would be great. Yeah, I would love to do that. Sure. We've got, meeting's going to start pretty soon, but like, there's sort of a socialization time before and after. So like after the meeting, we'd love to. Yeah, let's do, great. It's nice to see. And then she just walks away into like, but it's like a single room. She just like doesn't know how to end this conversation.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
Walks directly past John. Like just not even a oh, hey, John, just doesn't, and like walks off.
John doesn't really seem to mind. He kind of finds a nice spot on the wall, slinks over to it, posts up, and despite the plan being to socialize with everyone, doesn't really do that and seems comfortable with just unleashing Dan on the group and letting that happen.
I forgot about this before. Was that roll on the perception based around going after the cult?
Good point. Yes. So roll 2 additional dice thanks to Lola.
That'll be 1 success.
With 1 success.
Yeah.
The thing that you will notice, because you were looking around, 1, all the members of the union or order, one of the two, are here in this room, or at least a lot of them. The factory is active right now. The smell of metal and like the sounds of machinery coming out of the actual factory floor still present. 2, you do see one little rat with 2 tails scurry off and around the corner away from the group and towards an outbuilding that doesn't seem to be in use out towards the tree line near the forest.
Noted.
John, as you linger against a wall, sort of watching Dan just in his element, just like social butterflying through the room. Actually, Dan, roll me a presence socialize. You may add your appearance trait to this.
That suit is meant to give an equipment bonus. It will give a +4 die bonus.
Jesus. So, Tim,
it looks good.
Looks great.
Roll me your presence plus socialize plus your appearance traits +4 +2 for interacting with the cult.
Here, I'll help.
This is like a Garu Rahu attack roll, but for fucking charming a crowd.
5 successes.
That's an exceptional success. We can dive deeper into any of these conversations as you want, if you want to like know more. The overall vibe is that everyone is excited that you're here.
They got Dan Swanson.
They got Dan Swanson.
We got Dan Swanson.
They're so excited that Dan Swanson is here. The union president comes up and like shakes your hand and is just so like putting on the charm. Because you got an exceptional success, there was a possibility that the charm was actually going to work. That they could talk you into doing stuff. At this point, you are so in control of the situation that that is no longer a possibility. You are here with a purpose, and you got this shit on lock. The things that the general crowd are talking about, they all seem to be excited that production has been upping on schedule, and that exceptional success, everything is in place. You hear the word ascension once. Don't get the full context because you do get the intention that like there are a couple of things that they're not talking about around the new guys yet.
Right.
But they are very excited that you're here, and so they will be letting their guard down a little bit more. They are very excited that something is coming to fruition that will bring the town back from the brink. They're couching it in like business terms, right? Like, hey, all we have to do is, you know, the new tool line, but you get the impression very hard that it's not. It's more than just upping production at the factory or that they're going to get some big new client that's going to revitalize the town. No doubt in your mind they're doing something. And that something is centered in the factory itself.
So I'm more than likely, in regards to that kind of context, just pushing them a little bit in terms of like, so what kind of automation process you guys got going on? What kind of things are going like that? I'm hoping John's paying attention because I'm not going to really understand.
When you bring up automation,
Yeah.
they chuckle. And Carl, the union president, is like, oh, yeah, not just about automation, though, Dan.
Oh, yeah?
You know, automation means loss of jobs for us here. We're all trying to be part of something bigger, you know what I mean? Everybody in this town is going to be going through. Like, it's going to be great. Don't worry about it. It's going to be so fun. We're going to make sure that this town is just like it used to be. You know what I mean?
What is the truth of what he is saying?
Are you reaching to get better context? Because he's not lying.
The reach is already up.
The reach is already up. The larger context of what he's saying is that they are going to bring something about that happened once before when the town was prosperous. And they believe that that will make the town prosperous and quote-unquote good again.
I definitely jibe him about like not like everything good old days kind of way, you know.
Oh no, we got everybody here, you know, and we want the whole town to be a part of this. No, Dan, not like you know what we mean.
But you hear things, so you just gotta make sure.
Well, Dan, what do you hear?
About
What do you hear, Dan?
about
Come
old,
on.
old school unions? I mean, I'm glad to see some women here. Otherwise, it'd be totally uncivilized.
Hey, we don't discriminate.
I'm seeing that now.
That's the law, and it's the culture.
Okay. I'm glad you brought up the law part of that too.
Well, I mean, it's true, right? Hey, the mayor's a lady.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I am definitely like agreeing and like making him feel good about that particular thing, not just like ribbing him at the same time.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
You got exceptional success. The social lubricant is free flowing right now.
As Lola leaves the vicinity of the theater, her movements slow to reflect the shift around her, that she hasn't really thought what's out here yet. It's not apprehension, but an idea and something that excites her. Before she proceeds, she gives... Oddly enough, Lola can whistle with her fingers. So she sticks her fingers in her mouth and gives a whistle to call her dreaming mount, the strange gorilla elephant mushroom creature.
Also, I want to know which parts of the elephant and which parts are...
Do not answer that. It's a dream creature. Don't answer that.
No, I want some details of appearance, please.
It walks on its knuckles. It does not have a trunk, but it has big ears. Generally large and imposing, probably a little larger than an elephant calf.
Its ears are also its knuckles.
That is not canon.
What is its name?
Turkey tail.
And with that whistle, Turkey Tail lumbers out of nowhere. You see there's a new addition to Turkey Tail since the last time you've been in the hedge. Little saddlebags off of its back. Currently empty, but one of the saddlebags, because they're draped across its haunches, right? And on one, there's a little D, and on the other one, there's a little J. But it does come when you call within the hedge, as were the terms of the agreement.
Lola approaches the turkey tail and just kind of like scritches its forehead, or what can best be described as its forehead.
It nuzzles its bizarre, like, necklace face down into you.
Hi, bud. I missed you too.
It makes like a snorting snuff noise. A little bit of spores come off of it as it does so.
She kind of like catches them and gives them a kiss in her hand. Their dynamic is strange, but everything in the hedge is. Ready to go on an adventure, bud?
It gives another, like, rumbling chuff. You can feel, like, the heat coming off of it as it takes a big breath in. You get the impression that after being just a beast of burden for so long, it is ready to go on a ride.
Lola is not particularly strong, but she does manage to get on its back with practiced ease.
Mm-hmm.
Turkey Tail just kind of knows to start moving once she's in place.
It moves based on your direction, and you are on the dreaming roads here. Is there any place that you want to go? Any dreams that you wish to intrude upon? Bastions you wish to find?
I think she wants to try and find Gary. She's very confused about Gary and has some questions, and maybe his dreams will answer some of that.
And with that decision made within your heart to go try and find Gary's dreaming bastion, Turkey Tail takes off at speed down the dreaming roads. Now, it cannot come into dream bastions with you,
Right.
but it can speed you along the roads in ways which are more likely to keep you safe, because there are huntsmen and other dangers about. And eventually, you come across another bastion. You pass a lot on the way there, some which are, seeping out of the bastion. They become more towards the road. It's like marshlands that become full-on water as you get there. Dream koi fish swarming and swimming within. You pass one that's a literal castle, like a Disney-esque castle. Not one meant for defense, but one meant for show. Someone's idea of what being a princess might be. What, for all intents and purposes, appears to be a haunted house. You pass a little concrete bunker, like just coming out with a steel door that goes deep into something. And as it treads out and bleeds out towards the hedge, you see little, like, keep out signs. And eventually you come to one that you know to be the right place because your will has brought you here. And it is a simple, small, ranch-style home, white and gleaming, with a picket fence that marks the border. And as it starts to bleed out from there, you see grass, which is finely cut and perfectly manicured lawn towards the house, and then starts to get a little bit more wild as it approaches the street. A little bit of concrete, like a sidewalk, out in front of where the bastion actually begins. That becomes more crumbled as it reaches towards further away from what is very clearly Gary's dream, Gary's protection. Gary's mind is there. Now, as a changeling, if you have an open invitation, you can just walk right into someone's dreams. If you have the key, then you can also open the door to someone's bastion. Otherwise, you might have to force your way in. But here you stand in front of Gary Wallace's dreaming bastion.
It's not altogether surprising that his dream bastion seems like it's exactly imagined from the song Somewhere That's Green from Little Shop of Horrors. It's just what someone who wants a happy life might picture from someone who doesn't have one. She manifests a white wine spritzer in her hand, and she chugs it because Gary seemed to like white wine spritzer Lola. And maybe that will count as an invitation or key.
You go and try the gate?
Yep.
Even before you finish that white wine spritzer, you find that Gary's bastion is open to you. That there appears to be a standing subconscious awareness that you are welcome in Gary's dreams. And the gate opens, and even before you reach the front door, there is an understanding that that door will open for you too, and you will enter the dream proper that he is having.
There's a lot of big feelings that go along with Gary's continued acceptance of her as she is. does he think he's getting Dolores? Does he actually like Lola better? Is this some kind of trick she's playing on him without intending to? But the only way you get answers to questions is by asking. And so she walks in, not like kicking down the door, but gently, like she doesn't want to disrupt whatever's going on in here.
And you step through the door of the Bastion and into a nightmare. Gary Wallace is currently having a nightmare, and you see the dream start to play out before you. He's sleeping fitfully. You can tell that even from within here. Dolores is berating him. And you can see this is, in theory, the inside of a house that sort of matches the Bastion that you just entered.
Mm.
But you get the impression that this is Gary's real house, not the idealized version that his Bastion presents itself as. Or maybe a nightmare version. And as you get in, Dolores, the eidolon of Dolores, the actor in this dream play, is looking at Gary and blaming him for the loss of their wedding venue and saying things like, maybe we shouldn't get married at all. You see rats in the corner of the room, and she's blaming him for that too. You can't even keep a clean house. You get the impression that this is not really what Dolores would be like, but this is Gary's nightmare.
This is what he's worried would happen.
He is afraid that he is not good enough, and his dream is reinforcing that fear. There are unpaid bills on the table, a letter from the union that he lost his job, that production is not actually going to ramp up like they said it was going to, and all of his dreams are crumbling around him. Dolores is currently sobbing, telling him it's his fault that they can't have kids. Doesn't matter what the doctors say. And he's just curled into himself.
Well, this is a little bit much for the fairest, with the instinct to protect and keep people their best.
You are aware that you can change his dreams, that you have to interact with the dreams, that the dreams are there. You cannot just change things, change realities, unless you spend some glamour. But you can interact in different ways. You can insert yourself into this play that is going on and change them. You can talk to eidolons as if they were there and people. You have the power to try and change the dream that is going on, but it is a bit much.
So Lola, she ponders for a minute about exactly what to fix first. Do you turn down the volume or do you close your eyes when things are too loud and too bright? And she turns her attention first to the rats, because if the rats aren't there, Dolores won't yell at him. And so her first goal is to just make the rats gone.
Are you spending glamour to remove that from existence within the dream, or is Lola as a person presenting herself as an exterminator and taking care of the rats, or acting within the circumstance of the dream? Because you can wear any face, you can be anything, you are an Oneropomp.
First, she moves to Gary, and she takes his hand carefully because there are thorns in hers. She takes him through the motions of setting out rat traps. She wants to empower him to change his own dreams. It's not someone doing it for him, it's someone standing with him so that he can do it on his own. But it takes him, her showing him what he needs to do.
Does she wear a mask, or is she Lola when she does
is
this?
Lola.
And as she does this, the eidolon of Dolores isn't there anymore, and it is just Lola helping Gary to right his house. And Gary within the dream looks up with wonder in his eyes and goes, "Hon, you look different."
Is it bad?
I like it. No. It's just like the window box we wanted to build. I'm sorry.
For what?
Just don't know what else to do. And
Gary, I want to be married to you, though.
well, I wish I
And
had a
you
better
could pick-
solution.
We can get married outside. We can get married at the quarry.
Out at the quarry?
Yeah. It's got a beautiful view. We could jump over the edge at the end. Really
Well, that's a little
surprise
much
people.
for me. And there's that weird ripple of fear within the dream of I'm not gonna jump off a cliff. That's crazy.
Even if I held your hand the whole time?
Hon, if you held my hand, I could probably jump off a cliff. My mom always said, if your friends jumped off a cliff, would you do it too? And I guess if they pulled me.
I wouldn't pull you. I wouldn't make you do it. I just want you to feel strong enough to.
You're not her, are you?
I never was. But maybe she brought us together in a weird way.
What does that mean?
She's not me. I'm not her, but I wanted different things when I knew you before.
Am I going to remember this?
Do you want to?
With you holding his hands like this, you are getting that there is a certain level of lucidity that Gary does not usually have within his dreams.
I don't know if I can give you the life you want.
I just want to be a normal guy with a family.
What if I can't give you that? I didn't look like this all the time, Gary. Things were done to me to make me like this. She can't do it. I don't know if I can. But I want you to be happy.
Oh, jeez.
I'm not saying it's a no, it's a saying I don't know. Look at me, I have thorns on me. I don't know what that means.
Well, it's just like that funny thing you showed me that one time. She showed me that one time, Pobody's nerfect, right? He's like points over, and there's like one of those little live, laugh, love fucking things on the wall that just says Pobody's nerfect on it. This man has terrible interior decoration taste, but like, it's his aesthetic.
But it's adorable. Pobody's nerfect, bud. Are you afraid of her?
No, I'm afraid of disappointing her. I'm just me, and I don't know how much of a future I got here, but...
Why does it have to be here? What if you left?
Well, what if I did... And then the floor buckles beneath the two of you, and you are free-falling into machinery.
Lola spends a glamour to rebuild the floor.
With a glamour, you may reassert the reality of the dream. But as soon as Gary thought about leaving, the machine tried to grind him whole in his dreams.
Who are you to this machine, Gary?
What are you talking about, hon?
The machine we were about to fall into just now.
He does not seem to know what you're talking about.
It's okay. It's okay if you didn't see it.
Well, we've just been talking.
Well, I'm glad.
I'm going to wake up soon, aren't I? And you get an idea that that is probably true.
Probably?
Well, if I do, I hope I remember.
Is there a way I can ensure he remembers?
Not really.
Okay.
Not without some contracts and because you are not a dream walker.
Gary, I'm a big fan of people being who they are. And if who you are is a disappointment to her, you're not a disappointment to someone else. You're not a disappointment to me.
Well, gee, I'll try and keep that in mind. And with the stuff that you said, I'm going to have Gary roll to see if he'll remember this tomorrow.
Okay.
You don't know whether he's going to remember this interaction. Dreams can be fickle like that. But I guess we'll see.
Get some sleep, Gary.
Well, I think that's what I'm doing, isn't it? And he gives like the same kind of finger guns that he gave to like the guys earlier.
You're a giant dork and I love you for it. Exactly as you are.
Well, gee, thanks, hon. I love you too. I think. If that's you or... I don't know. It's real confusing.
Tell me about it.
Well, I guess I'll see you.
Here's hoping.
Thanks for this. And as you look around as you're leaving, an Eidolon version of Dolores walks out of the kitchen. She's wearing like a 50s house dress, and she's not yelling because Gary's emotions have reasserted themselves thanks to your help.
Go, Lola.
And he gets a peaceful night's sleep as he turns and sort of falls back into the dream. And the lucidity starts to fade. And he goes, "Oh, hey, hon, what's for dinner?" And she says meatloaf.
I would do anything for love.
But would you do that?
No.
You may now leave the dream. So in all dreams, when you're attempting to leave, you may leave your own bastion at any time, but even as a dream walker, you have to find the exit to someone else's dreams. Now, sometimes that's easy. Like in the case of right here, you probably just have to walk back through the front door. Some dreams can become labyrinthine. Depends. But you are a changeling.
Yep.
You are an Aneropomp, and you have the power to do this.
Lola walks out the front door, looking for Turkey Tail.
Lola, what are your needle and thread?
My needle is provider. My thread is acceptance.
Let me gain back a willpower. And you find that you are able to just open the front door of Gary's little house, step out through the picket fence, back into where it starts to just become grass and concrete, back towards the Dreaming Roads, where Turkey Tail is waiting for you. as the Acamoth worms its way further into Jesse's psyche, forcing him into his predatory nature, the wolf begins to come out. Jesse, under the absence of light of the new moon, what happens to Jesse as he transforms to kill?
At first, it's the wolf coming out. But very quickly, it becomes obvious that this thing is not a wolf or a man. The main experience is auditory. You hear bones snap and skin pulled to the point of breaking. The wet ripping and tearing of flesh as Jesse's cries of pain slowly become anger, and the air begins to vibrate with this horrifying roar. And then it all stops, and the woods are eerily quiet. All of the wildlife has stopped what they're doing and is bating breath. There are no insects or animals or any sounds. And then you hear a wet, rasping breathing of this massive, inky black shape, barely different from the shadows that it's lurking through. And as it starts to move, you hear the ground crack under the weight of it. It's hard to imagine this was at one point Jesse, but the vibrations coming off of it are really how you can feel it move, even if you can't actually see it. And slowly, it starts coming towards the tree. Maybe it doesn't know you're up in that tree specifically, but it's getting closer.
With the presence of the Acamoth in twilight worming its way through into Jesse, driving this killing intent forward, beginning to corrupt his psyche, his very soul. This is not the out-of-control rage of a werewolf. To the wolves, this is not the death rage. This is an unnatural, quiet, stalking urge to kill, to corrupt, to destroy everything that might matter. Jesse is sort of fully in his faculties. A version of Jesse is fully in his faculties in a way that someone within a rage like this typically is not. And he begins to stalk towards the trees where Aviva had gone to. And I'm going to need both of you to roll me initiative.
11.
7.
Jesse, you're acting first.
The Garu Jesse beast lifts its giant head into the air and breathes deep, trying to locate where Aviva is.
Roll your perception.
Only 2 successes.
From the exceptional, from the hiding, despite the enhanced senses of the wolf, maybe it's because the Acamoth is driving something with senses it's not used to playing with. Maybe it's just because Aviva is driven by the final girl, is really good at hiding and staying alive from monsters in the woods. Jesse can't quite get the scent for his prey, though he knows it's there. Somewhere. It can't have gotten far. Aviva.
The first thing that Aviva is going to do is to enter the shroud. In the temporary safety of the treetop that she's hiding in, Aviva feels the difference between herself and her Geist, that thin, shroud-like cover. And she moves to pull it over the two of them, to join the twilight. To do that, I'll spend a willpower, and I will use the Pyre Flame key that I have inherently from the way that I died. And I'll aim to spend 3 plasm in order to get 3 charges, as that's the max that I can do.
Okay. Go ahead and roll, and let us know how the Pyre Flame colors the manifestations of the shroud. Key of Pyre Flame is intelligence, so you will add your intelligence to the roll.
2 successes.
2 successes. You are able to don the shroud, coating yourself in plasm, and the final girl draping herself over you like a shroud. All of this colored by using the key of fire, the key of the pyre flame, which is resonant with your own death.
So pulling from that key, sort of hidden amongst the branches. It's not a true kind of glimmer the same way that fire usually does. It's more the shifting of fire, like the inside of a match. It's between Aviva and the final girl in that shroud, that intangible, flame-like disturbance.
And with that, the shroud is donned. Jesse,
Yes.
continue the hunt.
As you don the shroud, Jesse slips into the shadows. The massive, slavering form suddenly becomes difficult to track. He's going to try and attempt to stealth out of line of sight.
Roll your stealth.
It'd be a dexterity stealth.
Yes.
With 9 again, he is 5 successes.
Aviva in the trees, the slathering beast slips away into the shadows.
And with that, Jesse is going to try to invoke his hunter's aspect. Being an Erika, he causes his prey to feel blissful that they have evaded his attention. If this contested roll is successful, she will be at -1 composure. The condition is unaware.
What is the contest for the roll?
I'm rolling auspice plus skill plus stat, and it depends on how you're invoking it. I figure since Jesse is trying to slip away into the darkness and make it seem like she's lost him, he's going to use manipulation stealth. Would that make sense?
That makes sense to me.
And obviously cunning, which is his renown stat, or his auspice renown stat. It is resisted by composure, primal urge, which...
Composure plus synergy.
Right.
Can you use willpower on contested?
Yes, you can.
And I will use another.
I'll match you on that.
Actually, Garu automatically fail any social roll not based on intimidation, and any mental roll that isn't perception or resistance based.
So, that being
Yeah, so
said...
They don't have a penalty because you auto fail.
Right.
Basically.
So, no penalty for anything on this?
So for this
currently,
one, because the Acamoth is overwhelming, I'm going to make it so you're not going to auto fail, but you are going to have a 2-die penalty.
Okay.
Based on how the Acamoth works. I don't want to say why because it explains Acamoth stuff.
You're good.
Three successes.
4 successes.
Aviva, you lose track of Jesse, and with losing track of him comes this sense of relief. Now, you are not just trying to evade the predator.
I'm actually specifically not trying to evade him, but I imagine this can affect me regardless of that not being my intention.
Yes, there is that sense of relief. Maybe it's even coming from the final girl who has evaded the monster. But basically, you will be at a -1 composure until
Yep.
such time as this is resolved.
Until you the resolution for this is you suffer a wound penalty.
Gotcha.
Rob,
Yes.
since he cannot necessarily find her yet,
Mm-hmm.
he's going to move to part 2 of his plan.
Explain that to the mic, even though it's...
So, when this scene came about, which I was not expecting this scene to go the way it was, Rob informed me that I should come up with a devious plot to hunt Aviva. And being that Aviva is the final girl and I am a werewolf monster, I decided to write a step plan in the ways a horror movie monster might stalk a final girl. So I have written down how many steps?
7.
A 7-step plan that has been predetermined, so I can tell Rob that that's what I'm going to do. Hopefully this will work out. I don't know.
So, though you have lost track of him, Aviva,
Yep.
Jesse begins to stalk off away from the tree line and back out towards where the two earlier had their conversation. Now, Aviva has lost track of him. In the trees, however, Aviva, with the final girl, you know what you need to be doing right now. And though you have eluded the monster, much like sometimes the girl in the horror movie who makes bad decisions, you need to go find him.
I think the first thing to do would be to see if I can get those shroud charges again, as I intend to spend some more.
Sure.
So that's synergy and shroud again?
Synergy plus shroud.
2 successes.
That's all it takes.
To have 3 more charges?
Yeah, if you spent the 3 plasm, then yes.
Okay.
Specifically for invoking the effects of haunting presence.
So there's a sense of relief permeating in from the final girl, who knows exactly what it means to have something awful going for you in the woods. But Aviva can keep hold of her plan.
Yeah.
And thinking that she can't be perceived by this werewolf. Well, not this werewolf, this Acamoth taking over her friend. That doesn't exactly stop what she wanted to do, because she knows that she doesn't even necessarily want this leaving her. Bad things happen. So the next step is to try to use a ghost pneumona.
Okay.
I'm going to attempt to afflict hallucinations. Now, I don't know where Jessie is, so I don't know if that would work.
Here's the deal. You are currently in Twilight, correct?
I am.
You are not existing within the material world. Jesse, through his gifts, has completely slipped your notice.
Yeah.
You cannot find Jesse.
Yeah, I had
However, the Acamoth exists in Twilight. This is, strangely enough, a weird edge case where while you cannot find Jesse, the Acamoth is not hidden in the same way, specifically because it does not actually enter into Jesse. It just uses its, things. So you are aware that if you were to go looking for the Acamoth within Twilight, you might be able to find him.
So
It's like a very weird edge case here, but
Yeah.
well, clarification, just because I want to know for imagery. It's more like, is it those tendrils sort of connecting into the temples, or is it overlaid on the form of
so
Jesse, or what does it
what
look
they
like?
do, and it is the same thing that happened to Aviva once upon a time.
Yeah, but
The
it's on a wolf.
Acamoth is essentially floating over and behind him, and all of its nerve-ending tendrils, because that's what it's made of, have, within Twilight, essentially wormed their way into what he is. It is riding him. So, the tendrils of its nerves are wrapped around his nerves. It is overlaid with his body, but is sort of floating above and beyond because there is much more to it than even the werewolf form.
If I were to find it, it would sort of, the nerves might still represent that of Aratha's
You could
nervous
probably
system.
put together where Jesse was, even if you couldn't directly perceive him. It is a
Yeah.
very weird case,
Well,
but this is an abyssal entity. Literally, the rules of reality are thrown out the window when the abyss is around.
all right. Well, I'm not particularly looking for where Jesse is. I'm looking for where the Acamoth is, so I would love to
good
look
news.
for the Acamoth.
Roll me wits composure. Because
Yep,
it is
yep.
following Jesse right now, so it is still hard to find.
Yep.
But within Twilight, you have a unique opportunity to sort of maybe find where it is.
No successes.
It will be using its finesse, but Garrett, what is Jesse's stealth score?
5.
Okay.
He has a spec. He has a speck and shadow.
Mm-hmm.
So that would make it a 6 if.
It's like it's what he do.
So how many successes did you get, Aviva?
0.
It has 1. You do not currently see where it is. You know it's around somewhere.
In the twilight, I'm searching.
You are in Twilight. Aviva, what is your defense?
4.
Jesse, you're currently unaware of where Aviva is. Aviva, you're currently unaware of where Jesse is. You're also unaware of where the Acamoth is. And with 7 successes, a tendril lashes out of the darkness in the twilight and attempts to penetrate your temple and take you over as it once did. Apparently, the Acamoth does not just need to possess one person, for it has many tendrils. However, Aviva, you are different than it once knew you. There is an aspect of the bound that is not often used, but is right there. You are immune to possession. As the nerve endings begin to bury themselves in you like they once did, Only now you can start to feel it because you exist in Twilight, not purely in the material plane. The presence of the final girl rips the tendrils from your ghostly flesh and tosses them aside. It cannot gain purchase in you as it once did. And then the tendrils retreat back into the darkness. A couple other things that you pick up on during the course of the conversations. Gary is upset that his problems seem to be compounding. Something fucked up the church hall, and he doesn't know, like, where else are they going to get married. Like, the wedding was supposed to be soon. They wanted to do it here in town. They don't want to have to go elsewhere, not even that they could find a venue. They were going to get married, and they were going to have the reception at the hall underneath. They're very careful to say worship center rather than church, but they were going to have the reception down there, and now they don't know where they're going to go or what they're going to do. And so Gary's down about that. And then you hear him go, plus, there's like, I found a rat in the basement, so now I got to call an exterminator. Just, it's all raining downhill on me right today. I'm sorry, guys. I don't mean to be so self-pitying, but it's just a tough time.
I mean, if I'm engaged in this conversation with him, I'm like, Gary, anything you need, let me know.
Unless you got, some sort of place where we could do like a reception, me and Dolores.
Like a big open room where a bunch of people can meet?
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, it'd be weird.
Oh, well.
Like the same exact spot we're standing in?
Oh, geez, Carl. And he looks over. Do you think...
Come on, Carl.
Do you think me and Dolores could have the wedding here at the factory? And Carl looks at him and goes, Garrett, so long as it happens before the 15th, I mean, I guess. Yeah, I mean, about the 13th. Lucky 13, Gary. I mean, that day we could probably make it happen, right? Like, you'd have to move the time frame up a little bit, but, I had, like, right after the Founders Festival, though. That'd be perfect.
Yeah, we can make it happen, Gary. Come on.
Oh, jeez, you guys. That'd be... Well, I mean, I'd have to talk to Dolores, but...
I'm sure she'll be ecstatic.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, and it'd be great, the start of the new town and the start of our new lives together, like, that'd be wonderful. Yeah. Well, thanks, Dan. How come I didn't think about it before? And there's like a general joy. Like, yeah, Gary, that'll be great.
Yeah, and I can come over and take a look at that rat problem for you. I don't know. I know a couple things about it.
Do you really?
Yeah. I got to deal with it out in the cabin occasionally.
Well, yeah, I guess you would, huh?
Yeah.
My Dolores is a little sensitive sometimes, though. You don't like any harsh chemicals or anything.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Just basically, like foul language and, some harsh gestures.
Well, I mean, she doesn't like those either, but sure, yeah. Would...
I mean, you never know until you use them, so.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah, no problem. I'll try to make some time in the next couple of days to see what I can figure out.
Oh, that's great. Hey, is it weird if I already took the time off. Should I reschedule the honeymoon, or should we?
It should still be in line, right?
It's okay just to have a week or two before we go on a honeymoon. We just kind of hang out. That's not weird?
Yeah, it's
not weird at all.
It's perfectly normal.
Perfect. Hey, John, how you doing? So
Great.
nice to see you.
Having a blast.
Gosh, what a good day this is turning out to be. Thanks, you guys.
No problem.
What are you guys doing on the 15th?
There's like a general chuckle around the room that happens nearly in unison. Well, that's when we're going to launch the new product line, right, guys? Yeah, we're going to launch the new product line. And there's like a link that you clearly are aware that is a lie. The new product line is code.
For what?
Using. John, roll me a resolve plus composure immediately.
Let's do this. 3 successes.
With 3 successes, you do not immediately go insane. You look out the window, your eyes being sort of drawn there. You do not see into the Heseal like Jesse does. You see an impossible tower of rusted metal spiked directly through the factory right across the road there, reaching up to impossible heights. You see the building of the factory this close. You see the work in the factory building and building, symbolically, metaphysically, physically, into eternity. You have the eyes of a mage. You see a lot, and you know instinctually this is not of the supernal realm. This is not of the material realm. This is not of the abyss. This is something else. Something alien and horrific. And you see every member of this room all wearing little pins. And when you look and get this symbolic sight, you see that every one of the pins is symbolically made of this same material, the same whatever, and it pierces the chests, it pierces the souls of everyone in this room, who are all building to something, but you do not yet fully get a glimpse of what that something is at the end of this impossible tower that apparently exists in multiple planes in the same place, piercing reality that everyone in this room, that this factory itself is building towards. You also now gain the unnatural sense merit, just like Jesse did.
Okay. John gives the group of them a look like a cornered animal. He looks at them like he might very suddenly escalate to violence. Bodily takes a step back away from everyone. Okay. Neat.
Yeah, it is sure pretty neat.
Going to be really good for the town, you know? Really good for the town, you know? Ever since the highway, and it starts to feel like an old spiel, like the old timers talking about, like, oh, back in my day. It's like, you know, ever since the highway came through, you know, and all the shipping lanes changed, things just went downhill for this town. But I really think things are going to change. And with that and the insights that you've just gotten, you also get the impression the world is filled with natural ley lines. Each of these ley lines has a particular resonance, and they move in particular directions. It's just the nature of the world. And things in the material plane generally go along those lines. When the highway was built, that cut off access to Ashville just followed a natural ley line. And you get the distinct impression that while no one in this room understands that, what is being attempted here in Ashville is a fundamental rewriting and rerouting of the very ley lines of creation. And again, because you are aware of the truth of situations, you are aware that everyone in this room does not quite understand what it is that they are doing. That they truly believe they are going to make things better, no matter the cost, no matter what. That Asheville will come back. Some of the people in this room are true believers and think, hey, we're just doing a product line and, you know, we're launching things and things are going to get better. Some of the people in this room are aware that they are doing darker things, more unnatural things, but that the ends justify the means and things will be okay in this town. All they have to do, and you're the only man in the room currently who might understand the full extent of this, all they have to do is rewrite the map of reality itself.
She scritches his nose a bit. Again, best guess that it's the nose. And she hops on.
And filled with a little more confidence, before you choose to wake, because you can just choose to wake, is there anywhere else you'd like to look? Anyone else you would like to visit in their sleep?
Short answer, yes, but long answer, I don't know who's still here. I would like to visit my family and give them some indication that I'm not even okay, just different than I thought.
And with that vague thought in your heart, you find yourself traveling down the road and suddenly in front of a gray stone wall in an old style. Comes up about 6 or 7 feet, and there are hedges around it. Not the hedge, but like privacy hedges. And that's really all you can see of this bastion. More protected, more guarded than Gary's. And Turkey Tail stops in front of this place. As it bleeds away, you see little cobblestones, little flowers growing up between the cobblestones, moving out towards the dreaming roads, are pink carnations. I'll never forget you.
It's unclear whether it's the privacy hedges or the carnations or the cobblestones, but something about this is very familiar. And the message of the flowers all but invites her to explore this some more. So Lola dismounts Turkey Tail, walks up the path, touching a carnation along the way.
And you know, as soon as you touch that carnation, that to pluck one of these, for you to pluck one of these, is the key to this bastion.
Lola has an odd relationship with flowers. She spent a long time as one. Rather than just snipping it off, she goes down to the soil and digs out the dirt so that she can take the roots and all.
Simple enough for you to do in this place.
And she kind of gently brushes the dirt off and carries it in her hand, kind of cradling the roots. Because roots are very tender. They hurt if you're not careful with them. And so she takes it up the path.
And the wooden gate within the stone wall amidst the hedges opens. The pink carnation in your hands glowing gently to match the circle around the door as you are able to open this new bastion.
She kind of carefully cradles the carnation against her chest, being mindful of the roots, and opens the door.
And inside, if this were a movie or a TV show, everything would be sepia-toned.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. Everything is in vivid color in a way that those stylized old movies never quite managed to capture. There's a woman inside in her 30s, maybe, wearing a very pink dress from, like, maybe the 1940s.
Mm-hmm.
The style. There is some amber light coming through the windows, as if it's an early morning coming through sort of yellow curtains. But there are a few anachronisms. So this isn't fully in the 40s, right? There's like a modern TV. And from that television, you hear the Netflix boom boom like go. And some movie starts up. You can hear the audio of it, but the screen itself is not quite showing the picture the way it's supposed to. And this woman is there, and she's arranging little pink carnations in a vase on a table in front of a modern IKEA couch, but wrapped in plastic. And even though it doesn't look like it, because you never saw her when she looked like this is what your Grandma D looks like in her mind. This is where her soul lives. This is where her heart lives, in these dreams. And you quickly get the impression that Grandma D was watching Netflix and fell asleep. And she turns, she looks at you in a way that most dreamers don't, and starts to cry.
Please don't cry, Grandma.
I knew. And despite her appearance, the voice of an old woman comes out. Specifically for you, the voice that you remember as a child. I knew you would come back one day. I knew something was wrong, and you have. And she rushes over, and despite your alien appearance, throws her arms around you in a hug.
There's no reluctance on Lola's part to reciprocate.
My sweet, sweet girl.
I didn't know you'd still be here.
I couldn't go until I knew. I knew you weren't my girl. But you are.
I am.
I can see it. I can feel it in my heart.
Thanks for waiting.
And she doesn't ask what happened to you because you feel maybe it's your unconscious intentions. Maybe it's something about Grandma D, but you get this impression that she knows. Maybe she doesn't know the specifics. Maybe she doesn't understand, but she knows in a way that most dreamers don't ever get to know. Just the act of you being here. Even with your friends, even with everybody, there was that hesitation of like, I need to explain, I need to go on. And with this, there's just that immediate and overwhelming sense of family and belonging and love and understanding of exactly who you are. And she just hugs you in her dreams.
I'm sorry I left.
You didn't leave, sweetheart, dear one. Don't ever think that. You're back. That's what matters.
I'm really glad to see you.
I'm so glad to see you.
It's strange, she tried to make me think that no one would miss me. And I get back and I find that everyone missed me. In some way or another.
How could we not? Even if we didn't know. Even if we doubted. You can't get rid of that. You're our girl.
I guess I always was, wasn't I?
She chuckles. Your grandfather always said that, you were his girl, but he only said that because we all knew you were mine.
I'm okay with that kind of family conflict.
I don't know what you've been through, but I am so happy that you're back, and I am so proud of you that you've made it. And you know just instinctually that everything she's saying is true.
Are you still at your house? Can I come find you when you're awake?
They haven't gotten me out yet.
Are they trying to?
Always. But this is my house, and I'm not leaving. I'm gonna die in this house. Nobody's gonna put me in a home, and no one's gonna take my home.
Well, don't do that now that I'm back, okay?
She gives that chuckle, like, well, I'll try my best, hun, but it's been a little bit.
Just hang on a little longer, okay?
I won't go anywhere until I get to see you with my own eyes. And I want you to know that even if I don't remember this. Do you kind of remember your grandmother when you were younger talking about her dreams? You were always a dreamer in the family, and she was very much a spirit, but she was a little more literal about her dreams. And she just looks at you and goes, even if I don't remember. And I always remember in my dreams, although sometimes I'm not as there as I used to be.
Me neither.
I'll know it's you. I promise.
Okay.
No one's going to make me a liar.
No one ever could.
And she gestures, and there's like a little glass bowl on the table in front of the TV. And there are like some hard candies in it, like ribbon candy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to take one for the road?
Don't I always?
I thought you might. I
So-
still have them, even though no one ever wants them but you.
Can I take 2 then?
You've gotten greedy in your time away. But she's joking. Like, you could take the bowl and the crystal and like
I've only
half the
eaten.
fridge
I've
and
only
an
eaten
heirloom, and she would
nectar.
let you do it.
I've only eaten nectar for the past few years, Grandma.
Well, welcome back. And they don't want me using the stove anymore, but that's not going to stop me if my granddaughter comes.
At least put the kettle on. Lola reaches down and takes 2 of the pink candies.
And they feel exactly like you remember them feeling.
One she puts in her pocket, the other one she starts to eat.
Well, you'd best hurry along, dear, if you have business. Because I want to see you for real.
Yeah.
Maybe not today.
No. Why are you watching this? This doesn't seem like one of those Antiques Roadshows shows that you like.
The machine just starts playing whatever comes next, and I don't know how to make it do a different one. But this one's I don't get this one. It's very bloody, but it's interesting. But I don't get it. Maybe you could tell me.
I'm not sure I could, but maybe we can be confused together.
Or at least if you could help me figure out how to get back to my shows, because it just keeps playing these different ones.
Maybe I can do that.
Okay. I'm going to hold you to that.
I'll work for Candy.
Good. Okay, and I still have, these are the same ones. They don't make them like this anymore, so I've
They
kept
don't. And I can definitely tell. These are vintage candy.
them. I've had them for a long time.
Are the candies like all melted together?
Dude, it's kind of gross. Yeah, like, no, in the real world, yeah, it would definitely be kind of gross, but, whatever. Well, dear, I'm going to sit down. Maybe I'll wake up and I'll see you sometime. I'll see you sometime soon, okay?
Do you want me to try and make you remember this?
Sweetheart, even if I remember, I might forget.
That's fair.
And you get the impression that she is more lucid right now than maybe she usually is in the waking world.
Yeah. Then let's hope for the best.
I'll see you soon, my love.
Thanks for the candy, Grandma.
And as you finish the candy and go to leave this bastion too, you may regain another willpower.
Woohoo!
Lola, Grandma D's dream begins to end. Bastions only exist for as long as the dream exists in the mortal. And as it begins to crumble, you have several rounds to make your escape. This one is easy, obviously. You exit through the door back out to the dreaming road.
I don't think she put the carnation down at any point.
You don't have to. That can be yours.
Yep, I think she probably kept that.
Dan.
Yeah.
Carl looks at you. So glad that you're here today. What finally convinced you to come in, Dan? We've been trying to get you in here for, gosh, a couple of years now, it feels like.
Yeah, all my side projects are drying up one at a time. You know how it is around here.
I certainly do. That's what we're trying to fix. And there's another round of that collective laughter.
Right. So who headlined this thing? Who is it to thank for this new product line? Like, it's got to be somebody's idea, right?
Oh, I just... Me and some of the other members of the union, we were part of the lodge and sometimes, working with the mayor and but really it's been, and then somebody in the crowd just goes like, it's like the factory itself wants us to do it. And there's another round of collective laughter.
So it didn't have anything to do with the owners or the actual factory owners.
The owner? The Starkweathers?
Yeah.
And there's another round of collective laughter. I mean, sort of, it's the Starkweathers. Boss hands down orders from on high, you know what I mean? And then there's like a collective grumbling, not in an unnatural way, but in the same way that like any members of the union talks about management, right? It's like, ugh, yeah, Carl looks at you and he's like, yeah, as the liaison, like, and they only ever bothered to talk to me, you know what I mean? Frankly, it's rude. Back in my day, management would come down and be on the floor with you. Not no more. Another round of collective, natural grumbling. Still, so glad you're here. Favor to ask, actually. Even if you don't want to take the job, I get it.
Already asked me for favors, huh?
Well, this is sort of a different one. The mayor and I were talking about sort of a, like a town fundraiser, for the Founders Festival, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to have like a bachelor auction. And I would love if, Asheville's most eligible bachelor would... What do you say, pal?
Who do I need to recruit for that?
You. I'm talking about you. Dan.
Cannot be the most eligible bachelor in Asheville. Come
Dan.
on.
Amber leaves the room. Like, just fully leaves the room. Come on, Dan. What do you say?
I mean, sure, why not?
I think we could raise a lot of money for a good cause.
What cause?
Town beautification.
I mean, sure.
Perfect. I'll let Mayor Castro know. She'll be so happy.
You think she's going to participate?
He finally looks over at John a little uncomfortable. He's like,
John is fucking staring.
I don't know there, pal.
Probably not.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I definitely wink with an eye on the opposite side of John.
I'm sorry. John, did you want to...
What did I want to do?
He wants you to participate also.
With Dan participating, we only got 2 guys for the auction. It'd be great if we had another one. And, you're known around town.
You're definitely more reliable than Jesse.
Both of these are technically true.
Great, so you'll be there. That makes 3.
I kind of give Dan a look, and I look back at this guy. What are we raising money for?
Town beautification. I don't know if you noticed, but, there's a lot of peel and paint, a lot of cracked sidewalks, and...
All right.
Hopefully we can get some of those nature trails worked up. They've been falling apart. I've been doing a lot of that work myself.
Hey, you know what, Dan? That's a great idea. I'll bring it up with the mayor.
It's good. It's what I like to hear.
Perfect. I'm so happy. All right. Hey, how about your brother? I mean, 4's better than 3, right? We could maybe earn some more money?
Yeah, probably.
Unlikely.
They say simultaneously.
Look, I can ask him, but
Tell you what,
I would not count any of those chickens.
How about you ask him?
Sure.
That'd be perfect.
What's Jesse up to anyways?
Listen, this is a good-looking cast. Y'all have your striking looks like the rest of us.
Around this time, in the distance, you do hear the faint sounds of a wolf howl coming from the forest. So,
Does he have to make a Kuruth check? Because you just heard his packmate go...
He did not hear his packmate. He heard a wolf.
So I was like, fuck?
No.
You know what? There's one way to get rid of the order of Toolmaker.
Because honestly, if that's the case, I'm just going to close the door. And be like, all right, Dan.
No. He heard a wolf. You guys hear, like, the faint, far-off sounds of a wolf. He did not hear his packmate. So, we're going to start the actual meeting soon. You guys going to stick around, or? Everybody's starting to, like, take chairs around the table. It looks boring. Like, in real life, if anybody's gone to, like a town hall meeting or whatever, this is just... One of them is pulling out minutes. But they invite you guys to stay, seeming to be under the impression from the, glowing conversation with Dan that you guys are going to be sticking around, probably.
Yeah,
John kind of gives Dan a nod.
It sounds good.
Nods.
I might wander in and out. I can't always sit still for very long. It's a thing.
That's okay. Jeff's the same way, aren't you, Jeff? He just points at one guy who's like, hey.
I get you,
But
Jeff.
he's pacing in the
Yeah,
back, so.
yeah, I get it. I get it, man.
Well, great. All right, sounds good. And Carl reaches into the inside of his jacket pocket and pulls out 2 pins. He goes, I'm so glad you guys are staying, and goes to affix it to your jacket lapel.
Hold on there, Carl. I'm not official yet, so let's just
Well,
give
if
me...
you're sticking around for the meeting and he just goes to put it on your jacket, he's not stopping.
Sure.
No.
Well, he puts it on Dan.
As he reaches for Dan,
Okay.
I just put my hand in the way.
You get poked in the hand by a pin.
He said no.
Sure, I get it. You put your hand in the way. You do get poked in the hand by a pin unless you stop.
That's fine.
All right, roll me a resolve
Yeah,
composure.
I'm okay with me doing it. Not.
I have no idea what's happening. I just don't want one of their crappy edgelord pins.
It's a nice suit.
Yeah, I'll spend a point of willpower on this too.
Okay.
4 successes.
4 successes.
Yeah.
As the pin pricks you, you feel that alien presence. So in Chronicles of Darkness, everybody has aspirations on their cheat. Major and minor. Things that you want to accomplish. Things that your character cares about. And you feel whatever that presence is. Attempt to take hold of one of the minor things that you care about, one of your minor aspirations, and try and change it into something different. You have dealt with your mom for a long time. You have dealt with outside presences. You managed to retain control of who you are as a person without being fundamentally changed with physical contact with whatever this is. And you take your hand back, or whatever you do.
I'm going to take the pin from him.
Okay. Oh, hey, great.
Neat.
And one for you, Dan. And he goes to put one into your lapel now that John has taken one.
Take it. Yeah, I look at Dan.
I basically grabbed the pin.
I just told you to not stick it onto him.
I got it. I got
Sure,
it.
sure. All right.
I got
all
it,
right,
Carl.
all
No
right.
worries. No
Okay,
worries.
all right.
You got a meeting to run here.
Gosh, you're right. And like there's like a woman near the front, like looking at her watch, like, I have things to do tonight. Like, let's get the fucking meeting starting. Like, just that energy of like, oh my God, what is taking so long? And Carl goes, you're right. Okay. He goes around to the front of the table. He stands. Everybody else is like sitting or like leaning against the walls, or Jeff's pacing in the back. Like, and he just goes, okay, I call to order this meeting of the Order of the Toolmaker. And everyone around the table says, hail the Toolmaker in unison.
Oof. Some real oof energy.
After that, it's basically like a normal union meeting, but they don't really talk about union business. There's some like general lame pleasantries like, hey guys, remember the spaghetti dinner is on Wednesday. Okay, remember, everyone gets the day off for Gary's wedding. What's the new day, Gary? And Gary goes, I'm getting married on the 13th. I got to talk to Dolores first. It's just that kind of weird energy. Throughout the meeting, though, you pick up on a few other things. There are a few things that happen. Whenever Carl says Toolmaker, everyone says Toolmaker. Whatever is going to happen is on the 15th of this month. That's when, quote unquote, the new product line is set to launch. You pick this up. The mayor is not officially part of the Order of the Toolmaker, but she's been working with them on the town beautification project, or town revitalization project. You get the impression that Carl and the mayor have sort of a contentious relationship. It's one of those, we all want the same thing, but we're like jockeying to see who's actually in control of this like project, like who's going to get credit for it, is the vibe that you get. Everyone's looking forward to the Founders Day festival, unironically. The last, like the pertinent piece of information you pick up from that, the Toolmakers are going to have, the Order of the Toolmakers, not the Union, the Order of the Toolmakers are going to have a booth at the festival. They call it Vendors Row, right? So all the like, hey, the businesses are going to have booths and whatever. They're going to be there, and they're going to be giving out free pins to show everybody support for the history of the town.
I'm going to sit next to Dan during this, and I'm going to specifically collect Dan's pin from him. Like, hey man, do not fiddle with this.
I give him my pin.
While they're all chatting, I'm going to lean into Dan. I'm going to whisper, we need to find out exactly where they're being passed out from, and we need to send Jesse to score their batch before they're passed out.
He gives like a slight nod.
Dan, I kind of like holding the pen. I'm like, mind control. And then, I return my attention to their meeting.
As you return your attention to the meeting, while the two of you were talking, no one entered the room, no door opened. Your mom is standing up there with Carl.
Hey, Mom. I kind of wave to her with a little smile.
No one seems to react weirdly to the sudden presence of your mother. She goes, "Oh, hi, sweetie. I'm so glad you're here. Oh, and Dan Swanson. So nice to see you, too.
Nice to see you also.
So, like I was just telling Carl, pay attention." And you, like, that feeling of, like, being scolded by a school teacher for not paying attention in class, like, just ripples through the entire room. As I was saying, I'm so excited that the two of you and maybe your brother, if you can keep him in line, Dan.
I wouldn't count on him.
Yeah. And our, out-of-town guest are all going to be at the bachelor auction. It's going to be so fun, and it's going to be for such a great cause. I'm so glad you're all here. Carl, here's the permits that you needed. She just passes some paperwork to Carl. You're watching directly. There's nothing, like, mystic about it. She's just literally the mayor handing over some, like, tent permits and, building code permits. Right, so I'm probably going to head out. So glad to see all of you. And instead of suddenly not being there, she just walks past. She puts a hand on your shoulder as she walks past you, John, leans in and gives you a motherly kiss on the top of the head. Love you, son. I'm so glad you're here. And what is unspoken, but what you can hear, is just like I saw.
Okay.
And then she leaves the room, or goes to leave the room.
Yeah. Do you have a second? I kind of like get up to like chase her.
Huh? Oh, sure, sweetie, but, I'm on a timetable.
Where do you have to be that's so important?
Come on. And she just walks out.
I follow her.
Mm-hmm.
How's her nose looking?
Up close, John can see through the truth of lies. The specific example that was used was dyed hair. She has used makeup to try and hide a black eye.
That was the most, like, bloodthirsty giggle I've ever heard.
Serious goblin energy.
Yeah.
I get to have goblin energy this game.
Expect that out of Erika and I, but you, Rebecca?
It's a round table.
Fair enough.
I'm back out on the road. I'm going to ask you one more time. Is there anywhere else that you want to go before you decide to wake?
Lola kind of takes a minute as she's sitting on Turkey Tail. She kind of wipes her face and gives some thought as she runs her fingers over the mushrooms growing on Turkey Tail's where a mane would be. And she starts to think about the people in town, not just her ersatz pack, but the other people there, like Gary, like Grandma D. And she starts thinking of what she can do to protect them. And what she can do that other people in her pack can't do is find out what their dreams are like.
It's true.
So she starts thinking about who it would be beneficial's dreams to invade.
Gone from explorer to aggressor.
Definitely gone from explorer to scout,
Mm-hmm.
at minimum.
For sure. So who do you think would be beneficial to see the inside of their dreams?
Someone associated with the Union comes to mind, but we saw Gary, and we got that little glimpse of the machine waiting to grind him up that he is utterly blind to.
Mm-hmm.
So awkwardly, John's mom comes to mind.
Okay.
Ramona Castro Taggert, whatever she's calling herself, if any of that is her real name.
So you want to find the mayor's dreams?
Want is a strong word, but that's the plan.
Okay. On Turkey Tail's back, you walk. Now, whether or not the mayor is asleep right now or not, again, time both in Ashville and in this place are strange.
Mm-hmm.
How can something exist within a limited time frame, but also have that time frame be nebulous? It's something you feel intrinsically, but it's still weird if you stop and try and think about it logically.
Mm-hmm. Thinking about things logically isn't a thing Lola does very well anyway.
Particularly not anymore.
No.
Turkey Tail and you speed off down the dreaming roads. Occasionally you hear off in the distance, the howl of wolves. You hear a hunting horn at one point. You pass bastion after bastion, all sorts of different things. A beached ship, a sand castle, a factory, till eventually you find a large amber dome. The path leading up to that amber dome is brick. Each brick laid neat and orderly, exactly in its place, not a single one crumbling. Even as the bastion, the dreams bleed out into the dreaming road, into the hedge, everything seems exactly in its place. The only thing that catches your attention is that some of the bricks are a not yet formed tarnished gold. And outside, planted, the only thing asymmetrical leading up to the dome is a single sign planted in the ground that says Castro for mayor. And looking at this dome, you do not have the key and you are not welcome. But you have been inside John's dreams before.
Mm-hmm.
And unlike regular dreams, John's dreams were like memories.
Mm-hmm.
And it carries a familiarness from the outside of this amber bastion.
Lola is drawn by the bricks of gold because she recognizes that as part of John's magic.
This feels distinctly different from John's magic as you look at it.
Yeah, but it does kind of harken the idea that even here, he's on her mind.
As you look at it, looking at the gold, it carries the impression of symbolic power, like all potential energy, no kinetic energy. Something waiting just beyond the horizon that none of you can see.
So amber is an interesting substance. It works like a time capsule for living things,
It does.
which feels very appropriate for what she's hoping to do, what her dreams represent. Lola does two things. She bends down and attempts to dig up one of the bricks from where it sits.
The gold bricks or the regular bricks?
First one, then the other.
Okay. Gold bricks do not move. And no matter how you bend your will, no matter how you shape the hedge or the dream, it will not be moved. But the other bricks, you can take up just as normal.
So she holds on to a brick, kind of awkwardly like a teddy bear. And then she goes and attempts to pull up the Castro for mayor sign.
It comes right out of the ground. You got to struggle a little bit in the same way that pulling any sort of like sign that's really stuck down.
Yeah,
in the dirt
she's
comes out.
not strong.
But
she's in her place. So
you could pull it out. Yeah.
So she's got the brick and she's got the sign. And her goal is to use Ramona's carefully laid plans and her goals as a means of breaking in. So first she's going to throw the brick. And then she's going to jab at where the brick hit with the base of the sign. Like stab at it. Like planting a flag.
You're trying to force your way in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this works just like head shaping,
Mm-hmm.
but a little bit different. So you are going to pick sort of the skill and whatever that you think you are symbolically using to crack into this thing, and it will be resisted by the resolve plus supernatural potency of the person whose dream this is. So this is, you are aware, a very difficult mind to crack.
Did she get the +2 die bonus for this?
For this, she does,
Cool.
as you are delving into looking into secrets. So spinning wheel will apply.
What Lola has used so far in her adventures in dreaming has either been presence expression or presence empathy.
Okay.
So I feel like presence empathy would be
Here's my question to you.
yo.
Are you trying to understand and feel the feelings of Ramona Castro, or are you trying to express and exert your own presence into those feelings?
This is another one of first one, then the other. The intent is to see what's going on and understand where she's coming from.
Roll me the empathy. Are you spending any willpower?
Almost certainly. Just empathy or a attribute?
Manipulation for this one.
Okay. I am spending willpower. Okay. One success.
You may read nothing from the external mind of Ramona Castro. You get no sense of anything, except while her bastion stayed strong and is uncracked, will not let you in at this stage. With one success, you will get something odd. A bastion only exists so long as the dreamer is dreaming, but there is a sense of permanency to this place that is bizarre. You get the idea that maybe nobody is home, yet the dream plays on. You gonna try again?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna tell you that I'm going to limit you to 3 attempts to get in before the dream just asserts itself that you may not enter this woman's dreams. The mind will be too strong and will keep out the changeling.
That's super fair. I'm contemplating using a different dice pool.
Okay.
Because it was, okay, I'm here to understand you. Now it's, no, I don't think you understand. I'm here, and you're going to let me in.
Sure.
Presence intimidation?
I accept that.
Okay. Do I still get the 2 die bonus?
You still get the 2 die bonus.
Okay.
But if you want to spend willpower, it's another willpower to try and get the extra dice.
Would my spec in intimidation awe apply?
I'll give it to you this time. Yeah.
Okay. I am spending the willpower.
Okay.
6 successes.
Is more than 5. You declare your intent, your very presence at the edge of this amber dome, and the brick and the sign that you used create a crack, a small opening, just enough for you to squeeze inside. But a warning, while Grandma D and Gary's dreams were simple to leave, some dreamscapes themselves can become traps. Does Lola step inside?
Getting out sounds like a later problem.
And then through the opening you go into the dreams of Ramona Castro. Just like when you enter John's dreams, you see a series of images, a series of memories. And you have an instinctual understanding that while these are dreams, just like within John's mindscape, they are based on actual memories, memories that play over and over again. That just like John, maybe Ramona comes to take shelter in sometimes. Jesse, it's your turn.
At this point, I think Jesse will be completing his step 2. Jesse finds the motorcycle, reaches into the guts of it, and grasps the carburetor, and tears it free, along with the pipes connecting the petcocks to the fuel engine, or the fuel tank. The fuel tank empties out onto the ground, and the bike is going nowhere. And all around, it reeks of gasoline.
There is no more rapid escape from the werewolf in the woods. But within the twilight, the ghostly girl is now aware that her bike is destroyed and that the wolf and the abyssal creature are still out here. Aviva, it's your turn.
Aviva's going to try to use the fact of both that tendril coming for her and then retreating, and the location of where she knew her bike to be, to upgrade the way that she's trying to find the Acamoth.
Absolutely. Roll your perception again. Wits plus composure. Because it just lashed out at you, and you don't know where Jesse is currently, but where he was a few moments ago, now that there's the reek of gasoline in the material plane, you can take a 2 die bonus on this. 1 for each mitigating factor.
2 successes.
1 success. You see sort of the floating tendrils as they retract into the darkness, and you can follow as the final girl smacks them away. And there is the Acamoth. Now you are still, strangely, despite the fact that it is like, it is a weird sort of warping perception, because despite the fact that it exists in twilight, it is interacting with the material, And even though you should be able to know exactly where these tendrils are going, there's still that, like, where is what is connected to in the absence of the Erika.
Well, it is almost a cloud of nervous system, right? So it's almost like spotting a fog in a place, and you can't really see what's at the center of the fog.
I thought you were looking for me, coward!
It is difficult to tell if a thing can express surprise, but between the rebuke of its attempted possession and the fact that you exist in Twilight, it thought it would be using a werewolf to rip you apart. That is the obvious and logical conclusion to what would be happening here. There is a sense of anger and disgust. It will attempt to lash out again, and the final girl bats it aside once more. Just angry and like a raw refusal to allow something to take away her agency or make her helpless again.
You don't get my help killing me this time!
Jesse, 2 things happen.
Yes.
1, you are instantly aware of where Aviva is now. There is no hiding anymore. Now, I don't know if you can have abilities to interact with the Twilight in that kind of way, but you know where she is. And 2, the Acamoth is waiting to see if you can do anything about it. And if you can't, it will be changing its directives, and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
You have an action at this point, and then we will go directly to Jesse.
It's a little bit time for a taste of its own medicine. I'm going to try to counter-possess Jesse.
You're trying to possess Jesse.
I'm trying to kick it out.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
I don't know if sharing brain space is the way to go about that.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it plays out.
Let me look up the rules for possession real fast. I should have had this up.
Jesse's head explodes.
Aviva, you will be rolling to possess him.
I'll be spending willpower. Do I get it back as a, which one is that? Is that anti-hero, a blunt, ignoble solution to a current problem?
I don't know
I
if
don't think this is
blunt.
blunt.
This is pretty clever.
Yeah.
That's fair, that's fair.
Blunt would be
Here,
if you
I'll
tried
look
to
it up.
If you
headbutt it
just
out
tried
of
to,
him.
like, punch the thing out of him, yeah, I would see that. The all-willpower of anti-hero is take major risks to establish your reputation as the right kind of trouble. If this succeeds, I think that is establishing your reputation as the right kind of trouble when throwing down on a possession war with the Abyss.
That sounds fair.
So, here's what we're going to do. Jesse, what is your resolve?
Resolve 3.
Resolve 3. Instead of your supernatural tolerance, we are going to be using the Acamoth's power added to your resolve.
Jesse is also indomitable. Attempts to control his mind are resisted at +2 dice.
So here's a question that I'm going to have for you in the same way that I've had for a couple other people in the past.
Absolutely.
Do you think that somewhere inside, and I will say somewhere inside, we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
Jesse is somewhere inside here. Jesse.
Yeah.
Do you think that part of Jesse would recognize someone trying to kick the thing out, or that he would fight against anything trying to take him over?
I think he would absolutely recognize that something's trying to... He's recognize that this is aid in helping the Acamoth get out. If you wouldn't mind, I think that this indomitable would apply to the Acamoth's power as a penalty.
You know what? I feel like that's fair. So what we're going to do is, it's what, +2... It's -2 dice?
Yes.
Aviva, you're going to take +2 dice from Jesse's indomitable will, trying to recognize his friend, trying to kick this thing out of his brain. Because you use the key of fire, your roll is going to be synergy plus shroud plus intelligence. The way I think I want to do this is, Garrett, you roll me Jesse's resolve, and I am going to roll the Acamoth's power.
I like that. 0 successes from resolve.
The Acamoth currently has 3 successes on its power. Aviva, if you get 4 successes, I'm going to narrate what happens.
Okay.
If you get 3 successes and match the Acamoth, I'm going to narrate what happens. If you get less than 3, you are not strong enough to kick it out.
I hope you still narrate what happens.
Nah, we're gonna switch scenes.
We're gonna let Lex do it.
Meanwhile, Dan and Amber.
5 successes.
That is an exceptional success. Aviva, describe to me how you and the final girl rip the Acamoth from Jesse as you shunt it out and possess the angry Garu formed Uratha.
3 charges of plasm are spent in order for Aviva to reach out. She sees the Acamoth. She doesn't see Jesse, but she knows exactly how the Acamoth tries to connect into someone. She's felt this before, and she didn't have the power then to rip it out of herself, but she knows what to do, or at least she hopes, and she goes for center mass. So in order to possess Jesse, Aviva will superimpose herself not over where she can see him, but where she can see that outline of the Acamoth and the way that the Acamoth infiltrates into his nervous system. Asserting her own power, she's almost like, as she is one with her shroud, she is shrouding the Acamoth in order to project her own will into Jesse to kick the Acamoth out.
The two of you exist in twilight, and there is, for a moment, a physical struggle. You get the impression, within Twilight here, that the Acamoth itself is not much of a fighter. It is not the Antithanatau, it is not a Gulmoth, it is a creature of corruption. It degrades the souls of those it touches. It worms its way in and destroys and perverts the bonds that keep people together. You push yourself in, and it attempts once more to worm its way in. John told you once, or said once, that Aviva doesn't have a soul. In the place of where that should be is the bargain that was made between you and the final girl. And the final girl refuses to let this thing touch you. And you layer yourself over Jesse, and it is forcefully, with like wet, sick, snapping sounds, the nerve endings that are buried within the form that until now you could not see, snap. And it pulls away and recoils and is furious, but can do nothing in this moment. And then Aviva sinks deeper. You wanted something, hon? And there's a car, parked, but the lights are on, and there's somebody inside, like in the driver's seat, that she was clearly headed towards, just like a ride waiting for her.
Why are you doing this?
Why am I doing what, John?
Don't insult my intelligence. Why are you involved in this cult?
Useful tools and nothing more.
For what? What is it a useful tool for? Why are you doing this?
I try to get you interested in what I do for a living for years and years, and now you're interested?
Is that a problem? Is that something you don't want? Here it is. I'm right here. Tell me what you're doing. Why?
I'm making the town better, John. This is my town, our town, and I want to make it better for everyone. Me, you, everyone.
It's a room full of brain-dead slaves. How is that better for anyone?
They're useful tools, means to an end.
I hold up the pen that they gave me. Is that what I am?
You see her eyes widen a little bit.
Should I just put it on? Is that the point of this?
I'd rather you didn't. It would be a hassle for me.
Why are you doing this?
I am doing all of this. I know it's hard to see, John, but I know best. And I know that you'll see it someday too. And all of this will just be a minor bump in our lives. I really do want to spare you the hurt of making the same mistakes. I love you. I just wish you would trust me. Because you can't understand. But that's okay. You won't have to.
You're forcing me to watch you enslave a town.
No, that's not what I'm doing.
Then what are you doing?
I just said you wouldn't understand.
Then I'll guess I'll have to imagine what horrible, fucked up thing you're doing.
It's been nice catching up. I'm sorry it has to be this way. I
It doesn't go any way that you wanted. And honestly, had you seen me as a person, you would have picked another path. And I just head back to the meeting. And your makeup shit. I shut the door behind me.
Roll me a wits composure on a perception check as you slam the door.
I have an exceptional success.
With an exceptional success, you will recognize a couple of things. She quietly whispers, more to herself, well, I guess you forced my hand. I don't really have a choice. You know that that is a lie. She may think that she has no other choice, but that is not accurate. With an exceptional success, you also see she turns on her heel, walks away towards that car, opens the door, and in the light of the car, you see all this as the door's closing, right? In the light of the car, as the, like the inside lights come on when she opens the door, you see a kind of familiar face. One that you've seen a few times before. When you guys were in high school, sort of deep into your pining, Aviva went out with this guy for a couple of months named Ethan Feldman. They went to the same synagogue, and he was a good guy. He was on the baseball team. You were a swimmer. He was a baseball player. And sitting in the front seat is an older Ethan Feldman. He just greets your mom sort of happily. But as the door closes, you can see him looking with, hate at you.
As that door shuts, I actually kind of quickly reopen it, and I call out to my mom. I'm like, Mom.
She stops, door still open.
I love you too. And I shut the door.
John, that statement, was it true?
Yes.
Exceptional success. The last thing you see is your mom. I mean, she's standing there, but there's an air of hesitation before she closes the door of the car. Ethan drives her away from the factory. You see a younger Ramona Castro, and she's having a spaghetti dinner with a woman who looks a little bit younger than her, but has a very clear familial image. And they are laughing and chatting and eating spaghetti. And there is a very young Ernie sitting at the table too, sharing garlic bread with the other two. Very clearly, you ever been around a conversation with somebody who's like, two people are talking tech and you don't know the lingo, but you're just happy to be around? It's the look on Ernie's face as the two of them talk about things and concepts that are reminiscent of the things that John has said in the past about magic and sorts of weird things. So clearly two women talking shop as Ernie's just happy to be there. Occasionally snakes a hand over to grab the other woman's hand. And then in the kitchen, you hear a muffled, garbled voice. Almost like, like in the Peanuts cartoons when they use a horn instead of actual dialogue. And there's a fuzzy, shadowed presence that brings out a bottle of wine and a couple of glasses. And for whatever reason, that presence, that person, you cannot see, Ramona cannot see. The people in the dream are reacting as if that person is there, but the details of that person have been erased. And everyone is just having a happy dinner.
I kind of want to try something.
Okay.
I want to try and sharpen the image or rub away the smog covering the image of who this person is.
This will provoke an immediate clash of wills. You roll your weird against her gnosis.
That will be very bad for me.
But you're going to try it anyways.
Let's keep going for now. Maybe we can rewind to it later.
Okay. As this goes on, and you watch the dinner, and it just plays out like normal, and the blurred presence pours wine, and everybody's talking, and then the shop talk starts to get a little bit more heated. You're not 100% sure the context. Some words get thrown around that stick out to you. Words like throne, words like gate, words like exarch. And the heated conversation, it stops being shop talk, and then it's just an argument. And Ernie and the blurred shape cast glances at each other like this is becoming uncomfortable. The shadowed shape tries to say something, tries to interject and lighten the mood, and it just doesn't work. And then you hear a baby crying in the other room because the argument woke somebody up. And then the dream resets, and it's two women talking shop while Ernie looks pleasantly happy to be having a spaghetti dinner with everyone, just like with John's. And then you feel yourself being pulled into the next dream, unless you try and stay.
I want to run into the kitchen before the dream ends and see if the image is blurred in the kitchen as well.
The image is completely blurred, as if it has been video effect erased from this memory. As there's a transition wipe almost, very similar to how you saw flashes in John's mind.
Yeah.
You notice something new that you have never seen in a dream before, not even when you were walking through mage memories before. Words scrawled in a runic language you do not understand over every surface of everything. As if spells and magic, the very memory itself has been turned into some sort of repository of arcane knowledge. And then you're in a new dream. You get a series of brief flashes, and you get the impression that the dream itself is fighting your presence. Somehow it is aware there's an invader here. But you still get flashes of memory.
Question.
Yes.
Can I make an occult roll to get some understanding of what the runes scrawled over the memories might mean? Because it could be a few different things to Lola's mind.
You can make an occult intelligence.
4 successes.
The best you can get, based on your understanding, is that you've seen something similar before on the rings that John wears.
Mm-hmm.
These are arcane runes, spells of some sort. With 4 successes, you get the impression that these are not written here as a trap or a spell laying in wait. It is literally knowledge that could be useful later, a book of spells, has been inscribed within her own mind, that she uses her own mental landscape as a repository of spell knowledge.
Is it possible
Mm-hmm.
to, as I see them, have them become scrawled on my arm? Not with intent, but to copy the runes.
Yes, but it will provoke a clash of wills. So you can try it. But you're getting the impression this is a powerful mind mage, while some things might certainly be possible. And you can try and maybe remember them later, at least some of them. The written truth of the universe, the underlying order of the universe that you are not awakened.
Right.
You may not quite understand.
Yeah, I don't, but I would like to show them to John.
So you may attempt, if you wish.
I'm going to instead try and just remember them.
Okay.
At least the shape of them.
Trying your best.
Yep.
As you get pulled along the memories, you see flashes of other ones as the mind tries to obfuscate things. You see her sitting in an office, just the mayoral office, hanging up a phone, angrily crying. And you get the impression that she feels like she should go do something, but instead turns and looks across the desk at the head of the Order of the Toolmaker, one of the members of the Toolmakers Union, wiping the tears out of her eyes and just in a very cold voice saying, "I'm sorry about that. Family business, none of your concern. So, what did we have planned?" And then the memory starts again. You see her slap a blurry visage with muffled trumpets for voice angrily. You see a transition into her talking to Ernie and going, "Why aren't you angrier? You should be furious. Why aren't you angrier?" And Ernie just shrugging. You see her opening her eyes to the world, and then it clicks into something that plays out a little bit more symbolically, which you as no Narrowpomp would recognize. And it's unclear whether this is symbolic, whether this really happened, what this is, but it is a vast, blank, empty nothingness. There is no light, there is no space, there is nothing. All there is Ramona Castro standing alone in the vast emptiness of a starless space. And then white lines appearing in front of her like a gate. And then she's just sitting in her office again, snarling before her pace goes passive. And then the memory repeats. A blank, empty space. And to get to the last vision, the last dream, I'm going to need you to roll me another dream shaping. Now, it can still be intimidation presence, it can still be whatever, but that last little core memory after those little flashes is what you will be fighting you the most to see.
Yeah, she doesn't get to hide things from me.
Okay. Are you spending willpower?
Yeah. This is not going to be a super restful or restorative sleep. Seven successes.
Well, that's an exceptional success.
It sure is.
Even taking away the resistance, that is enough for an exceptional success. Wow. So as you plummet through these dreams, one, feel free to ask me for any more additional little details that you want. You do recognize that in every lay of her mind, more spells are inscribed on the walls of her brain. And then you get to the bottom, and it's just the quarry. You recognize sort of the top of the quarry, not down where the wolves play, but where the teenagers go. And you see Ramona Castro as a teenager. And you see that same fuzzy shadowed shape with the voice. And Ramona is laughing and light. And that sense of command and control that she has is not present. And Ramona Castro's core memory, the one that she hides in, the one that she retreats to in her own mindscape, is a pleasant picnic with a boy and a girl by the quarry where teenagers go to make out. And there's a little picnic basket, and she's just happy. And with your exceptional success, you'll recognize one other thing. Within that picnic basket, there's a small locked box that is not part of this dream. Like something has been taken and locked away, never to be seen at the core of who she is, hidden in the depths of her thoughts. And Ramona and the shape lean in and kiss and hold hands. And they're just talking about the future and about getting out of this town, about taking a job somewhere else, maybe going to the city. Maybe they'll go to Boston or New York. Maybe they'll go to California. But they're going to leave Ashville behind, make something for themselves. You get a lot of this through context because even with an exceptional, the identity of whoever that was is gone. But the memory remains. And there's that little lockbox inside the picnic basket.
But I do know it's a boy and a girl.
It's a boy and a girl.
Okay.
You get like the vague impression and outline of like a person. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of like a more masculine shape.
Okay.
Not super broad by any stretch of the imagination. Honestly, the shape reminds you of like John's physicality.
Okay. I'm gonna be real stupid.
Okay.
Do it.
I'm gonna steal the box.
You are in a bastion without a dreamer, an empty space of thoughts. So in theory, you could just walk over and take it. Or you can interact with these eidolons like you usually do and like insert yourself into the dream. It's up to you.
I have an odd question.
Sure.
What is the size of this dream?
More than most, this mindscape is vaster and more infinite than one would expect. This particular dream starts to get fuzzy around the tree line because it is based in a memory. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, 100 feet.
This box is not part of the dream.
It is there. It exists within the dream, but you, with your exceptional success, can recognize it as an anachronistic or out of place. That box was not there in the memory that this is based on.
So here's my thought. Time isn't real anywhere. So I'm going to freeze this memory, and I'm going to take that box. Changeling hours.
It's for objects, correct?
It's for objects. Is a memory an object?
It is not.
Okay.
However, I think it's a really cool idea. So here's what we're going to do.
Okay.
You'll spend the glamour for changeling hours.
So it depends on the size for how much glamour it costs. If
To
it's bigger than size 5, it costs more.
What is the cost for bigger than size 5? Because size 5 is like a person
It costs 1 glamour plus 1 per 5 size.
per 5 size.
Yes.
This will cost you 5 glamour to freeze an entire dream. I think that's a neat way to do that. It's a big enough space.
So Lola can only spend 1 glamour per round.
So it'll take a couple rounds.
So she'll take her time, and she will watch this waiting for the right moment. And when she gets a sense for how the dream moves, or the memory moves, she will put her hands up, and she will start spinning her hands. Actually, hang on 1 second. She's going to attempt to not have to spend any glamour at all. I'm still willing to spend it. I still can spend it. But as her arms spin, she mentions that this memory used to belong to the blurry figure across from Ramona Castro.
You're still going to need to spend the glamour for this.
Okay.
We're sort of pushing the boundaries of what changeling time can do.
Okay. Totally fine with that.
But it is, you say it, the two of them are there, and you're watching for the few moments it takes to do this, and they kiss and then pull apart, and teenage Ramona goes, "I'm never going to be happier than this." And then time freezes, and the two of them are frozen there, gazing into each other's eyes. Presumably, you can't see the other guy's face.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. No wind blows. This is a moment frozen in totality in time.
And Lola attempts to take the box from the picnic basket.
It comes out. It's a small metal lockbox. It is locked, obviously.
Mm-hmm. And holding it in her hands, Lola finds a shadow and makes herself invisible.
So you take it out and you pick it up out of the picnic basket.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ramona's hand shoots out and grabs your wrist, and her face contorts and twists and looks at you and hisses, "What are you doing here?" And she starts to rise. "This is not your place. What are you doing here?"
Not
And-
gonna try and talk, gonna try and go.
The dreamer has returned to the dream. You're trying to escape.
Mm-hmm.
This is now a combat.
Yep. Fuck.
Dan, inside, the meeting is wrapping up. So goddamn boring.
I was like eye flirting with various women there just to keep myself occupied.
It's working too well. You're just riding that exceptional success from before, and yeah. And at the end, they wrap up the meeting. Basically, as John is coming back in, he stepped out for a minute. They all clasp their hands to the pins on their lapel and go, "Rise, O Toolmaker." And then the meeting's over, and there's that kind of post-meeting energy of okay, well, what do you guys want to do? I gotta go home. And my girlfriend's waiting on me. I gotta, I'm gonna go. Gotta go tuck the kids in before, Or actually, I think I'm gonna go bowling. Or Gary wants to just go home and talk to Dolores almost immediately. That's his big energy is just well, I gotta go. Oh boy. And then Amber comes over to you, and she is hugely sweaty. Just goes, "So, you said you wanted to walk around or something?
Yeah.
Do you want to? Great. Okay.
You need a water?
Yeah. And she
I want to take a few of them.
grabs one of the water.
Bit thirsty. I say you're walking
looks-
by. Pat you on the back. I'm going to head out. Catch up when you're done with your walk.
John, you head to your car?
Yep.
And Dan, Amber with a tiny water bottle in each hand goes, "So, did you want to see the factory, or what did you want to just look around, or what are we?"
Yeah, why don't you show me the factory?
Great, that sounds good.
You left him alone.
I'm going into the factory.
She's just gonna do it differently. I have actually no idea. I just felt like this was a good thing.
Having a cult member walk up and be like, "Hey man, do you want to go look at our cult spot while you're doing?"
I was
was like,
Dan, evil, mind control. This is bad. I'm going to go look.
Steel Fortress.
Dan, why are you in here?
Steel Fortress? You can't get in. I can't get in.
Can't possess what you don't understand. What I don't understand. Jesse,
Yo.
the entire time that the Acamoth has been worming itself into you, degrading the very essence of what you are as a person. Inside, part of Jesse, part of his soul, still lives and exists. Has been running, hiding, fighting within his own mind. To what memory does Jesse retreat? To preserve the last of what he is before it is consumed by the abyss.
He goes back to memory of his first change, back when Hank was still around. And Hank brought him into the Hasiel. Jesse remembers the feeling of exhilaration of being in a wolf form, sprinting full out through the world of shadow with his uncle. And nothing could catch the two of them. They went where they want. They hunted what they want. They were untouchable. And so he is just outpacing these things in his mind, trying to catch them. His uncle's voice reminding him to just keep moving. You're faster than this, and they're never going to catch you. You're an Erika.
From a third-person perspective almost, you watch the wolf run through the Hasiel. Nothing can catch you, Erika. But behind you, the memories, the world turn black. And as if black ash peel off from your mind and are dissipated and are gone, as everything that you know and everything that you are as you are possessed is slowly but surely destroyed. You are still the core of who you are, waiting for the end, trying and running as fast as you can to preserve what is still there. And then the decay stops, and Aviva, you are standing within the core of Jesse's mind with him. You are now the possessor, as the decay and the abyss that was consuming his soul begins to peel back. And the two of you stand side by side within a memory.
You good?
The black wolf just kind of looks up at you. It gives you a knowing stare.
That thing can get more than just you. I think we have to stop it before it goes for the others.
The wolf nods, kind of looks you up and down, and then looks out to the outskirts of the memory, and up to the sky where there is still no moon.
Aviva follows the glance and her brows furrow. Are you able to be you, or do you want me in the driver's seat?
The wolf huffs and paces around a few times in circles, sits his butt down and kind of looks at you.
Aviva sighs at him. She is trying to be patient, but she's definitely still in the adrenaline of having lost you and not having been sure if what she was doing could even bring us to this place. Look, I would have knocked, but...
You hear a snapping of bone, and the wolf starts to get a little bit bigger. He kind of buries his head into the ground and kind of like covers up over his eyes with his paws. And you see him shaking a little bit.
Hey,
And you hear another snap of sinew.
hey, it's okay. Aviva sits down, trying to... I mean, she doesn't think that there's a way that she can really medically help with what to her looks like it might be the change continuing. But she's at least trying to be at Jesse's level with it, to be present.
You can tell that you're definitely in control here, but there is that vibration in the air that starts to kind of push back at the fact that you are in charge of him now. That rage that boiled up and changed him into Garu is not gone. And it looks like he is having a very hard time keeping that under wraps. Even in this mindscape, he's having a hard time controlling himself.
All right. I said I was going to be here with you in case this happened. I guess this doesn't make it any different. We're going to make sure you don't hurt anyone, and I'm going to make sure that thing doesn't hurt anyone.
Back in the twilight, there is a frenzy of jittering motion as the Acamoth wails and slaps at Jesse and Aviva. You had an exceptional success to no avail. It cannot force the Geist back out of the Erotha in this moment, and it is enraged. And Aviva, under control of Jesse, who is now in the material world, you have one action before this thing leaves.
Like the Acamoth, I can't make Jesse have capacity to interact with the Twilight when he cannot interact with the Twilight, right?
Correct.
Okay. Am I able to focus on myself even though I am possessing Jesse as in my own actions?
You're possessing Jesse, but you can do stuff yourself. Now, I will say, if you leave the superimposed possession of Jesse, you may make him vulnerable to the Acamoth again.
Yeah, my objective is to remain in possession of Jesse.
Let me ask a question before. Jesse does have a supernatural sense he has gained
Yes.
for expressions of the God Machine.
Yes. Jesse doesn't know what the God Machine is, but if we're at this stage of the game, it's the God Machine.
What do I have to spend to use that supernatural sense?
You get a sense, generally, of if it's around, and if you gain the spook condition, you can pinpoint it.
I will gain the spooked condition from having this thing in me. Is the Acamoth an expression of that?
It absolutely is not. As a matter of fact, you don't have to gain the spook condition. You do not get a sense that the God Machine is here.
Okay, never
the
mind.
Abyss and the God Machine seem to be different things.
Okay.
This may just be a shit talk moment before it leaves.
I mean, I'm fine with that, but there is a thing I would like to try.
Okay, what do you got?
I'm going to try to punch this thing in the face. It doesn't really have a face, but, it's out of Jesse.
So you are currently possessing someone who's in the real world.
I
You sort of exist in Twilight. So here's what we're going to do. Because you're, controlling a body that's not yours, but you're using your own body, but you don't want to leave the other body because you don't want to leave it open, you may try and punch the Acamoth.
Yep.
You're going to take a -3 die penalty because of, you're not fist fighting it in the thing. You're,
That's
possessing
fair.
a man who is in the real world.
I have priorities here, and that reflects it. How many minus is it?
-3.
Okay, I'm going to use and cancel out a willpower.
Okay.
And I will be attacking regularly. This is not an all-out attack for the reason that I do not want to leave Jesse open in any capacity.
In this circumstance, because it is within a round or two of it getting kicked out of a possession, its defense is only a 7.
A paltry 7.
Remove 7 dice from your attack pool.
Oh, then I don't know if I even can punch it. Hang on a sec.
It's a chance die.
How do chance die work?
A 10 is a success, a 1 is a dramatic failure. Everything else is a nothing.
Instead of trying to punch it, Aviva, in this sort of boiling shroud, this shroud that has heat emanating off of it as if it's embers, merged with her Geist, merged in a strange way with Jesse. She looks up at this Acamoth trying to worm away from her, and she chooses to take the moment to establish eye contact and say,
"Your little tricks won't work anymore. They never will again. And you can try, but I'll kick you out every time. Every single time!"
and she'll try to intimidate the Acamoth.
Roll me intimidation.
Willpower I will spend.
Presence plus intimidate.
Okay. And does no count as a spec?
The never will again to me is kind of a no, so yes, you may add a die.
It's a no, so yes.
A single success.
There is a hissing, trilling, "Let me in," and then it is gone.
So I'm trying to piece together some fucking frayed ends for
Oh, yeah.
solutions here. Jesse is going to peer into the his seal.
Before you do that,
Yes.
I want you to roll me a resolve plus composure plus Aviva's shroud rating
That's a 3.
And what is this for?
to make sure you do not actually fall to Caruth, that you can pull
Perfect.
yourself out. Aviva's presence controlling your body and her presence in that subset of your mind is helping to keep you okay.
2 successes.
Jesse, deep within your mind, beyond the version of Aviva that is in your mind with you, she is in control of your body, but you are now pretty certain you are in control of your mind. You've got this. The world continues to peel back, the blackness retreating,
The unnatural sense for that tower tells me this has nothing to do with that. In fact, it is perhaps even anathema to that tower.
It's a little hard to tell, but you did not get that same hairs on the back of your neck feeling. I mean, you got a different one.
The
right?
relationship is unknown to Jesse.
The relationship is unknown to Jesse,
But it is-
but that thing is not of the infrastructure you saw. The spire-piercing reality does not seem to be, at least directly, related to the thing that was just destroying your
So
soul.
then Jesse is going to peer into the Hyseal, and he is going to look to the sky and spot that tower.
Now that you've seen it, if you want to look, you don't even have to look in the Hyseal.
He spots the tower. Then he doesn't even bother looking into the Hyseal. And he tries to nudge his body against Aviva's will to try and place where he thinks the Acamoth might be. And he wants to place the Acamoth in between him and the tower in that way that you try to spot a floater in your eye.
So, a couple things. One, when the Acamoth disappears, it does not fly off into the night. It literally ceases to exist around your perceptions,
Okay.
as if it had been stepped or pulled through a gate.
Okay.
Two, the two of you, I mean, Aviva, you are possessing his body. Is it correct to say that you are allowing sort of a conversation?
I'm allowing essentially anything but him going full Caruth.
Then when you open your senses to it, and you are in control of his senses as well,
As I realize I'm in control of his senses, with my Bloom as an anti-hero, is my willpower refreshed?
you kicked the Acamoth out.
It
You
did
successfully out-possessed an abyssal entity. You may regain all your willpower. Which is good, because, as I was saying, when he opens his senses to the tower in the distance, you see it too. Roll me a resolve composure or go insane.
Well, one of those willpower is going to be spent again. 4 successes.
With 4 successes, you do not go insane, but you are suddenly aware of the presence of this impossible, ancient, horrific infrastructure, this spire, this tower built of rusted metal that is piercing reality, coming straight into the earth from the heavens themselves. And because of Jesse's senses, you're also aware that it exists in multiple realities at this point. The sense of horror and cosmic awareness is almost overwhelming, but you have seen strange things too. And while this is alien, you manage to hold your shit together. You may also now have the unseen sense for infrastructure, just like Jesse, just like John.
Oh, that's what you saw.
The wolf nudges you with its hips, pushing into you as a nod of agreement.
Fuck, that's... Yeah, we gotta... Shit. Okay, are you... I don't know how to... If I vacate, can you... Are you gonna be in control?
The wolf gives you a knowing glance, and you can see that it is back to being wolf-sized, not slowly growing and shaking.
Okay. Then I'm gonna get out.
And just before Aviva exits, there is a call, and a door opens within Jesse's subconscious. Lola, within the Bastion, deep in a picnic representation of the quarry from many years ago, the blank form with the obscured identity continues to just go through the motions of having a nice romantic picnic. But young Ramona has turned, grabbed your wrist, and hissed out her surprise at you being here. You have a small, hidden lockbox in your arm, and she looks up at you, and once again says, "You thought you could come here and take what is mine in my place of power." And she rises to her feet, and it is once again extremely clear to you as an Oneropomp that she is here, she is lucid, this is no mere Eidolon. and she is extremely angry to find you within her bastion.
So this whole situation of being in a very powerful person's personal domain is doing a lot to remind Lola of her time before she fled Arcadia. She is standing there nearly drained in a powerful creature's domain. As she's standing there, she closes her eyes because just the flashbacks of being in Arcadia are starting to try and descend on her because she's alone. And that part, more than anything, is what freezes her spine and twists in her stomach. Because in Arcadia, Mother was always unpredictable in her moods. Her whims were unknowable, and her punishments were always vacillating between vicious and shrewd. The worst thing she ever did, she did without witnesses. And honestly, even before Mother tricked her into Arcadia, Lola was always the kind of person who needed and wanted to be with people, but almost always with a layer of story between them, which made her gravitate toward dance and theater and caused her to develop the empathy and always made her a little afraid of disappointing people. Now, though, that she's been made a fairist, one of the Autumn Court, the need for company and the fear of losing them is overwhelming and impossible to ignore. The people back in Ashville, the other lost she led away from Arcadia, the motley of werewolves and people who both reacted very differently to death are the closest she's come to actually being with people. And maybe it's the fact that she's alone and wishing that she had Aviva, Dan, John, and Jesse with her, but she's taken with a bit of inspiration. And she looks back at Ramona and says, "I'm not the one you should be afraid of."
Child, I don't know fear.
You will. And Lola begins to spend glamour.
Roll me initiative.
Okay.
Now, this is a dream battle, so you'll be rolling your finesse instead of your dexterity, resistance instead of your composure. Or rather, roll one die and add those things together.
Okay. 8.
Ramona will be going on an 18.
I'm not surprised.
So as you say that and you begin to spend glamour as an oneropomp to shape the dream around you, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Ramona, even in the dream form, suddenly is holding that ring of keys and begins to weave. And what you start to understand is, much like the Fae in the realm of dreams, much like changelings in the realm of dreams, a master of mind has a much easier time weaving even vulgar magics within a dreamscape, within a mindscape. Nothing outwardly seems to happen, although you hear that jangling of keys as she does so. But you're not an aeropomp. You've been in these kind of places before, and the impression that you get is that she is bolstering her own resolve, her own mind, shaping herself to add to her power within this place. And now it's your action.
What Lola is attempting to do is to create eidolons of her motley, her pack. And she is attempting to bring John and Dan through, and then she would like to bring Aviva and Jesse in, but she's going to just start with 2.
Start with 2?
Yep, unless I can spend more glamour here than I can per turn.
So here's what you can do.
Okay.
Here's what I'll say. How much glamour can you spend per turn right now?
1.
Just the 1. And you need to spend 2 to bring all 4 of them over?
If that's your ruling, I'm not entirely sure.
So here's what I'm going to say. I want you to roll me essentially a head shaping, right? You'll be using, because you are trying to affect this place, you'll be using your power.
Okay.
All right? And because this is tied to your emotions for everyone, I want you to roll your empathy as well. Okay?
You got it.
You do not have to spend glamour to shape in here, but if you would like to spend an additional glamour, I will take that into account.
She's not going to shortchange this.
Great.
Three successes.
With 3 successes in this circumstance, this will count as an exceptional success.
Woohoo. That woohoo was deeply understated. It's definitely a giant. Oh, thank Christ!
So here's what's going to happen. When you're shaping dreams, it is easier to add eidolons that seem to exist within the dream, right? So like if everybody's at a coffee shop, creating someone who's just drinking coffee is a little bit easier than creating, an alien attack on the street. However, in this place and in your desperation, describe to me how your friends would appear to you in Lola's mind as they are stepping out of the woods to come to your aid.
Which ones?
Let's start with Dan, and then John, and then Jesse, and then Aviva.
Okay. Dan, through Lola's eyes, is somehow even beefier, with a warm, confident smile, wearing a t-shirt that alternates between free hugs and I consent to tussle. He takes a pose to face Ramona which both conjures the image of a bulwark between that which would cause them harm and them. And with this slight look on his face of, come at me. John has strong, magnetic, and enigmatic energy. His eyes are burning blue. His makeup is fucking on point. He's tight-lined in gold, black-lined with perfect blend. He has, in addition to his normal arms, fingers glimmering with gold rune rings, 2 ghostly arms and 2 skeletal arms, and the hands of these arms are tutting as they wait for orders. Jesse zips out of an empty space in reality wearing that giant fur coat, red leather dress shoes with metal heels and tips, neon green rave glasses, and the state trooper hat. He gives the group finger guns, gives a how you doing look to Ramona before disappearing behind Dan and reemerging from the space behind John with the hand grubbler giving an equal mix of finger guns and middle fingers. And Aviva seems to be stepping from the shadows, imposing, powerful, body moving between static and solid states, wreathed in flame like a phoenix in the Hamsa necklace glowing with a power all its own. Alice, the final girl, is in a more solid form than the shadow she normally is, and composed entirely of closely clustered television static.
Forgetting Ashville is an actual play Chronicles of Darkness podcast set in the fictional New England town of Ashville. Aviva Caradonna was played by Rebecca Steigelfest. Dan Swanson was played by Tim Davis. Jesse Swanson was played by Garrett Gabbey. John Taggert was played by Lex Lopez. Lola Gardner was played by Erika Webb. Your storyteller was Rob Muirhead. Recording and editing by Rebecca Steigelfest. The music used in this episode was by Victoria Borodnova. You can find their music on pixabay.com. Forgetting Ashville uses the 2nd edition Chronicles of Darkness rule sets, including Changeling the Lost, Geist the Sin Eater, Mage the Awakening, Werewolf the Forsaken, and other Chronicles source materials, with a few select house rules. The Chronicles of Darkness are produced by Onyx Path Publishing. Make sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at @PathOfNightPod, on Facebook at facebook.com/PathOfNightPodcast, or email us at pathofnightpodcast@gmail.com. You can help support the show at coffee.com/pathofnight. See you next time, Outsiders. Hey everyone, Rebecca made an appearance on The Fourth Leg, a podcast that shares discussions, tips, and advice for tabletop players and game masters. This episode focuses on the inclusion of politics, religion, and philosophy in world building. We'll share the link in the show notes. You can find The Fourth Leg podcast on Spotify.
I mean, I do run hotter than normal, so.
Wink.
Is that even a thing in Forsaken, or are you just choosing to say that? My blood runs hot.
There is a
Twilight.
book called Blood of the Wolf, which goes real heavy into werewolf physiology.
Fucking bet.
Chapters, plural, about it. They did another one for vampires too, though, so it's fucking cool.
Chapter 4 is titled Girth.
Great.
Cool.
Rob is specifically avoiding my gaze.
I'm not looking at you at all.
Girth.
Is that like the brother of Garth the Barbarian?
I was
Yes.
not sure how you were going to be finishing that
I wasn't sure where that
sentence.
was going either.
Is that like...
But I appreciate it because it like sidestepped. Yeah. Nobody look at me.
don't perceive me.
Do not perceive
Turns
me.
out that the hand gobbler is just a Rob insert PC.
Rob's Mary Sue is the hand grubbler.
Fuck.
Power object fixation.
There's nothing wrong with the grubbler.
Hey guys, it's me, myself insert. Who wants to get touched?
Can't wait to see that at the end of the episode.
Stop it.
Rebecca, note this.